Ohio State historically always has just, solid seasons. All right, so let's go ahead and talk a little bit about 2025. Like I said, this game's done. It's been happened. People have talked it off. Whatever. Let's talk a little 2025 with Ohio State, just because they've had so much turnover, and it was to be expected. On the roster side, this year, or excuse me, 2024, they put a lot of their NIL into keeping players on the roster. Really protecting what they have, making sure guys came back instead of going to the draft so that they could have this great opportunity to go win the national championship. And honestly, 2024, before the season started, we said it's a natty or bust for Ohio State. Yeah. And it felt like that. It felt like there was a world of pressure on Ryan Day. And, regardless of, the mishaps, in the season, even losing to Michigan, losing to Oregon, they went back into the playoffs and they dominated it. So now 2025, you lose a lot of those guys that stayed. You also lost coordinators. What do you think about that, Blake? Is it going to be a big issue for them?
It's one of those way too early calls, yeah. But Ohio State, to me, they're always going to be able to win 8-9 games regardless. They're just going to have the talent for it, even when they have a down season. Because in reality, the Big Ten, even adding Oregon and Washington and USC, I really don't see much of a challenge out of USC and Washington this next season. So, I mean, it's still just going to be Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State. You could toss Illinois in there next year because I do think they're going to have a solid team. So I still don't really see anything that's going to impede Ohio State's chances of having a good season. And they promoted Brian Hartline from within, so he knows the team, knows the system. And, it just depends on who else they get. And I'm sure it'll be a coveted position. So I'm sure whoever they bring in is going to be somebody that's going to come in and make an impact.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Ohio State historically always has just, solid seasons. They don't lose more than, 5 games. They don't lose, more than 4 games, really, hardly ever. But, for the only thing I say, just because, you always talk floors, you talk ceilings. I don't think the floor is 8, but it could be if things go total shit. You got new quarterback coming in, 2 new coordinators. I don't know with Hartline going to offensive coordinator if Ryan Day's going to be the main guy calling the offenses.
Most likely.
Other people have said, question that too. Like, he's never called plays before. He's a hell of a recruiter, no doubt. You got to keep this guy on the staff. Is it just one of those, hey, we're going to promote you in name only? Maybe you'll have some say in the offense, of course, but, we're going to promote you in name. You're going to get a nice paycheck out of it. But, I'm still going to have a lot of say in this offense as Ryan Day. And then you go out and, get a new defensive coordinator and lean on that with all the talent that you have on your team. I talked to an Ohio State, fan, on Twitter about it. And I was like, if you want to, a realistic thing is yes, 8 could be a floor, but I don't see it. 12-0 could be your ceiling. I don't see that with a new quarterback. All these new parts. You're replacing defensive linemen. I know you're loaded with talent. I got it. So I said 10 wins is probably what I would expect, especially just we've talked about it before, Blake, too. Just in this new era with the bigger conferences and everything else. I think it's just going to be very hard to go undefeated in a regular season. It's just going to be a really hard thing to do. Is it possible? Yes, but you got to have, in my opinion, a seasoned quarterback, somebody that's very ready to go, very good at their scheme, and then a continuity on the coaching staff. Yeah. And so we'll see what happens with them. But they do start off much like Michigan coming out of their national champion run in the 2024 season, playing Texas. Ohio State plays Texas. To kick off the season. And then they go in Grambling State, Ohio Bobcats. So a couple easier ones, to get that turn in. But then you go on at the road at Washington, which I think they can be better this year. They had moments this season of being pretty solid. But they also had plenty of issues. Then you go play Minnesota at a feisty Illinois team with a lot of returning players, and old Burt Bielema, that freaking guy, dude. I don't know, he's something else. Then you got Wisco, Penn State, Purdue, UCLA, Rutgers, and then at Michigan Stadium, and we know the monkey is on the back still. I think the national championship helped alleviate a lot of the pressure that Ryan Day was feeling elsewhere. So maybe, that'll change things for him. But we'll see that game being, again, at Michigan at the end of the year. So I said 10 wins, 10-2. I'm not saying they're going to lose, go to 8 games, win 8 games, but I think you could say it's a possibility. Would I bet on that? No.
I would put them in that range as well. 9-3, 10-2.
Yeah, I'm going to pull up their over-under real quick.
I think their over-under is 10.
Is it?
10 or 10.5.
I thought I pulled it up earlier, but I forgot. I think you're right, 10.5.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean,
I would take the under going by that number.
And under by, I don't think they'll go over. I don't see it. I don't see 11. That's a lot to me, especially with all the new changes. But I do think, again, they have continuity, at least at head coach, and you trust Ryan Day. He's elevated himself, obviously, through this playoff.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really, crucial point for them, even though they're replacing, coordinators. After that, it's just making sure the team gels, and you need a fast start playing Texas. But after that, you have a little bit of time to get situated, like I said, playing Grambling in Ohio.